Why didn't you come to my mom's funeral? You mean the wife of a lowly worker? What's the point of going to a funeral like that? What a jerk. Why did I even marry this guy? That's it. I want a divorce. When I said that, my husband smirked. Fine, but you're the one who's going to suffer. Ha ha ha. Turns out he was the one who suffered. Facing my downcast, pale-faced husband, I retorted, "Looks like the tables have turned, hasn't it? Ha ha ha." My name is Elizabeth, a 32-year-old office worker. I'm currently dating a guy named George. We met at a dinner party with friends. Elizabeth, you seem very domestic. Really? You think so? Yeah, you're always quick to serve everyone's plates when the food arrives, and you reorder drinks when someone's glass is empty. Those qualities are probably essential for a housewife. Oh, thank you. I was thrilled that he noticed such things about me, and I quickly became interested in him. After that, we exchanged numbers and started seeing each other alone. We'd go out to eat after work or spend weekends at cafes. One day, he suggested we drive to the ocean. On a whim, I packed lunch for us. He was delighted and complimented the meal while eating. You really are domestic, aren't you? I'd be so happy if my wife could cook like this. Hearing the word wife, I couldn't help but imagine marrying him. I chastised myself for getting ahead of things, especially since we weren't even officially a couple yet. While I was lost in thought, I noticed he was staring at me. Our eyes met, and my heart skipped a beat. Then he nervously said, "Will you date me with the intention of getting married?" What? My heart was pounding at his sudden confession. I had always been interested in him, so hearing his words made me incredibly happy and excited. If you're okay with me, then yes, please. I took a deep breath to compose myself, and that's how I replied. And so, we became a couple. After that, we dated smoothly, and it's been a year since we started dating. How's it going with George? Good. It's going really well. When I returned home after a long time, my mom asked me like that. Well, you're getting to that age where you should start thinking about marriage. Yeah, I guess so. I became a bit uneasy after hearing that from my mom. It's only been a year, sure, but considering I started dating him with marriage in mind, and now I'm 32, it does seem like a good time to settle down. But there was no sign of a proposal from him, and I began to wonder if he even wanted to get married. Then one day, as if sensing my concerns, he proposed. Elizabeth, there's no other woman I'd rather marry than you. Will you marry me? Yes! Absolutely, yes! I was overjoyed to be proposed to. I accepted right away, and we decided to get married. I was thrilled to be marrying the man I love. I immediately shared the news with my dad, James, and my mom, Mary. Wow, finally, Elizabeth is getting married. Oh, I can't wait to see you in a wedding dress. My parents were really happy about my upcoming wedding. I was glad to finally be able to give back to my parents after focusing on work and living as I pleased. Then we met each other's parents, had a dinner with both families, and proceeded to get married. A lot of people attended our wedding, and it felt great to be blessed by everyone. So began our life as newlyweds. I thought life with the man I love would be wonderful. But the reality was far different. Starting today, I'm laying down the rules. You will do housework and such as I want." What? My husband changed the moment we started living together. I couldn't understand why the man who used to speak so kindly and gently was suddenly saying these things, and I was stunned. Hey, is this okay with you? I chose you to be my wife, so act like it. Quit your job for starters. Why? To focus on the housework, obviously. If you're working, you'll definitely neglect the household. No, don't just decide that. I can manage both. I don't want you working late and messing up dinner time. If that's the case, you might as well quit your job and stay at home. But why? My husband was adamant that I should become a stay-at-home wife. Eventually, I had no choice but to give in and quit my job. I was confused by my husband's attitude and began to worry about our future life together. But at that time, I still loved him and didn't want to make a hasty decision like divorce. I thought that only by accepting each other's flaws could we become a real couple. However, my husband's behavior was worse than I had anticipated. Welcome home. He handed me his bag without saying I'm home and went to his room to change. I put his bag where it usually goes and headed to the kitchen to warm up dinner. After changing, he sat at the dining table, waiting for me to serve the food. Hey, you're slow. I'm sorry. He would get irritated if the food wasn't served when he expected and would rush me like that. I had become completely submissive to him. Perhaps, after a while, people just stopped resisting. Maybe it's because my perspective had narrowed. What was cunning about my husband was that he would occasionally show kindness. Elizabeth, thank you for everything. Huh? What's going on all of a sudden? I just felt like expressing my gratitude. I can focus on work because of you. Here, a bouquet. Oh, it's beautiful. I might let off steam because of work stress, but please bear with me. Okay. His occasional words of gratitude always touched me. I thought if I'm appreciated like this, I can keep going. He skillfully balanced harshness with kindness. Before I knew it, 2 years had passed. Throughout that time, I was manipulated by him. Experiencing ups and downs, I couldn't escape the situation. Looking back, the harsh words he said to me were really terrible. You're utterly useless. Is it because you were raised by a loser dad? Haha. He would always mock my father. Anyone can do cleaning jobs, haha. It's shameful to be doing that for so many years, haha. I work as a company employee, so I'm already above your dad. Why would he belittle someone's parents like that? I thought perhaps he was under immense stress from work and needed to put someone down to maintain his self-esteem. I kept telling myself, he's stressed from work. If venting at me makes him feel better, maybe that's for the best. So I put up with it. Life continued as usual. Before I knew it, we'd been married for 3 years. I thought maybe once he retires, when life slows down, we'll finally have that peaceful life together. That's what was on my mind these days. So, whatever he said, it hardly bothered me anymore. But then, something unexpected happened. My mom fell seriously ill. I rushed to the hospital. She needed long-term care, they said. I visited her daily. My mom had always cared for me. I wanted to be there for her as much as possible now that she was sick. One day, my husband came home earlier than expected. Welcome home. Dinner? Sorry. I was visiting Mom and got a little delayed. As I said that, my husband's eyes flared up in anger. What? What's this about? Why isn't dinner ready? Visiting can wait. What? Your job is to support me by taking care of the house. But I'm worried about Mom too. Who cares about your lowlife parents? Excuse me? This got me heated. How could you say something so awful? Would you feel the same if someone disrespected your own mother, George? My mother has no reason to be disrespected. Then why should my mom be belittled like this? Take back what you said about insulting her. Oh, so you're standing up to me now? I am. I've been tolerating your behavior because you said you're stressed from work. But you've belittled my dad too, right? That wasn't easy to swallow either. Take back what you said about insulting my parents. Shut up. If you hate me so much, then leave. And with that, he yelled at me. I couldn't keep my cool any longer. I quickly packed some things and went to my parents' home. I spent about a week there. My husband sent countless calls and texts, but I ignored them all. I wanted to spend as much time with my deteriorating mom as possible. And sadly, her condition turned critical. My dad and I stayed by my mom's hospital bed the whole time. But unfortunately, she passed away. I was devastated. Tears wouldn't stop flowing. But at least I was there for her final moments. I'm grateful I got to say my goodbyes. Then my dad and I immediately started planning and preparing for the funeral. I texted my husband about the time and location, letting him know we were holding a funeral for my mom. Though I could see he read the message, he didn't reply. The next day, my dad and I were busy with funeral preparations. We were so swamped, I didn't even have time to follow up with my husband. When the funeral started, I noticed he hadn't shown up. In the end, my husband never came to my mom's funeral. Even my in-laws were there, so what could he possibly be doing? After the funeral, I tried to reach him, but he wouldn't answer any of my calls. Why won't he answer? My in-laws also wondered why he didn't show and asked me about it. Wasn't he supposed to come today? Yes, but I can't reach him on the phone. What could he be doing, ignoring even calls from his parents? I had no choice but to go home. When I got there, I found him sitting on the couch, eating delivered pizza and downing beers. I was furious. Excuse me, why didn't you come to my mom's funeral? Huh? Funeral? Who cares about that? Haha. Are you serious? Yeah, why should I care about a funeral for the wife of a low-wage worker? Haha. It's a waste of money. And don't tell me you paid for it from my earnings. I'll never forgive that. He's the worst. Why did I marry this man? That's it, let's get a divorce. When I said that, he laughed mockingly. Sure, but you're the one who's gonna have problems. Haha. You're just a housewife with a janitor for a dad. Haha. How are you gonna survive? He continued to berate me. But the one who ended up in trouble was my husband. You seem to be misunderstanding something. What? He looked slightly rattled by my assertive tone. Why don't we let Dad clarify? What? Just then, my dad James walked in from the entrance toward the living room. James? You seem to have had a lot to say about my precious daughter and wife. Caught off guard by his father-in-law's sudden appearance, the husband quickly tried to act nonchalant. Isn't James the real problem? Haha. I was just speaking the truth, man. Having a janitor for a father-in-law is pretty embarrassing, don't you think? Ha 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 ha. Well, I believe all jobs have dignity. Cleaners make it possible for everyone to use various facilities comfortably. Nothing sadder than trying to justify yourself. Ha ha ha. Ugh, you really are a twisted individual. Clearly, I need to be more discerning in my hiring process. Wait, what? Hiring process? It seems you didn't know. I own a cleaning company. You're the CEO? Look, none of that matters now. I'll never forgive you for this. My husband's face turned ashen. No way. You can't be the CEO, can you? To convince my skeptical husband, I showed him my father's company website. See this CEO's picture? Definitely my dad. I can't believe it. He was wide-eyed and surprised. Just then, the parents-in-law stormed into the living room, having waited at the entrance. George, what on earth are you doing? Mom and Dad? You're hopeless, George. Apologize to Elizabeth and James right now. I can tell you've been behaving like this for a while. Apologize for all of it. Terrified by the angry voices of his parents, my husband hastily apologized. I'm sorry. It was my fault. His face turned even paler as he spoke those words with resignation. We'll proceed with the divorce as planned. I can't believe this. Facing my downcast, pale husband, I said, You ended up in the very situation you mocked, huh? Ha ha ha. Remember the divorce papers you shoved in my face? They're still in the drawer. Let's fill them out. Wait, please. Enough. What makes you think you can be forgiven now? Thanks to my father's angry outburst, my husband finally calmed down. With the help of my parents-in-law, they completed the divorce paperwork. Afterward, I sought compensation for emotional distress caused by my husband's harassment. I had kept a diary detailing his abusive behavior, and had even received a medical certificate for my emotional distress. My claim was approved, and my ex-husband was ordered to pay compensation. Additionally, I reported the matter to his workplace. As it turned out, my dad was friends with the CEO of my ex-husband's company, who severely criticized him after hearing the story. Consequently, my ex-husband was fired from his job. My ex-husband lost his job all at once and couldn't afford the rent anymore. He tried to fall back on his parents, but even they had had enough of him this time and cut ties. Now, he has nobody to turn to and is scraping by with a part-time job, paying off the compensation and living a life of poverty. He brought it all on himself, and frankly, it serves him right. On the other hand, I started working at my dad's company. If I hadn't been married, he always wanted me to work in his business. So, I'm taking his wishes to heart and considering taking over as the CEO someday. I'm fully committed to supporting this company my dad has nurtured.